Now, the father of long-range weather forecasting, Dr. Irving Crick, says those changes may even be accelerating because of another reason, radiation from Chernobyl. Mark Jones has tonight's cover story, The Chernobyl Factor.
That's one of the things that Arnold told me when I visited his ranch. He said, I want you to continue with your research because you may be needed again sometime.
Dr. Irving Crick is 82 years old. In the 1940s, Professor Crick developed the meteorology department at the California Institute of Technology. Albert Einstein was his mentor.
Have pretty good credentials before you're admitted.
Dr. Crick developed a long-range weather forecasting technique which was considered unorthodox. Studying decades of weather charts, he predicted weather not days in advance, but weeks, even years. Sort of an insider's old farmer's almanac. In January of 1944, Dr. Crick's work was classified top secret by the Air Force, and General Dwight D. Eisenhower ordered Crick to Europe to forecast weather for the Normandy invasion.
The regular weather service, both in this country and in England, did not feel confident in forecasting beyond a day, and Eisenhower needed at least a week to establish the beachhead, so he had to get a forecast out a week in advance at least in order to do this, and we were the only ones at that time that had demonstrated any expertise in that type situation.
Dr. Crick successfully picked June 6th for the D-Day invasion. The next suitable day for an invasion didn't happen for 2 months. When the war ended, Dr. Crick started a private meteorology business. In 1962, Crick became convinced that U.S. atmospheric testing of nuclear bombs was changing the weather.
We began to discern in the summer of '62 that the jet streams, which are the high-altitude, high-velocity wind systems that move the weather systems around, those jet streams had increased in speed and amplitude.
Dr. Crick's theory was tied to the 1958 discovery of the Van Allen radiation belts, two donut-shaped zones of charged particles trapped in the magnetic field of the Earth. Scientists say the radiation belts have always existed, but satellite probes proved that nuclear testing was creating man-made, temporary, low-altitude radiation belts. And Crick believed those belts heated the upper atmosphere, increasing the speed of the jet stream, making cool days colder and warm days hotter. Atmospheric testing ended in 1963. Chernobyl radiation was released in the atmosphere April 26, 1986.
Strangely enough, the Chernobyl accident, which occurred at the surface, has reinforced this effect and now is producing tremendous anomalies.
His examples? February 23, 1987. For the first time in recorded history, it snows in the United Arab Emirates. July 22, 1987. A heat wave kills 700 people in Greece. October 5, 1987. A 20-inch snowstorm with record cold temperatures blankets the Northeast. The same weekend, record-breaking high temperatures hit the usually cool and damp San Francisco area. October 16, 1987. Hurricane winds devastate southern England. November 16, 1987. Unseasonal tornadoes cause millions of dollars in damage in Texas. December 16, 1987. It snows in normally sunny and warm Malibu, California. The National Weather Service says Dr. Crick's theory is not probable, but its chief meteorologist for Northern California won't rule the theory out. Meteorologist Glenn Trapp.
Is there a connection between radiation belts and the jet stream?
In the sense that anything that changes the amount of heat energy arriving at the Earth's surface and or the amount of energy radiated by the Earth back to space has an impact on that heat energy. Yes, it can change the jet streams.
Meteorologists say volcanoes and forest fires, which spew debris into the atmosphere, have been proven to change weather conditions. There is no known scientific evidence that radiation affects weather.
Is there any validity to Dr. Crick's theory at all?
I would say there probably is some validity in the sense of any debris you put in the atmosphere is going to cause some temperature change in the amount of heat energy that falls on the surface of the Earth.
Such radical changes as we've seen in the last year and a half?
I wouldn't discount that it's not a factor. Whether it's a predominant factor or not, I really don't know.
Scientists at Livermore Labs say the number 4 Chernobyl reactor will remain radioactive for hundreds of years. The atmospheric fallout from Chernobyl will effectively be radioactive for 100 years. In San Francisco, Mark Jones, News Center 4.
Now, you've heard the old expression, everybody's talking about the weather, but nobody's doing anything about it? Well, some people are. Here at Epcot Center, we have the Weather Channel over in the Electronic Forum, so you can at least keep up with it 24 hours a day. And then there's Dr. Irving Crick, who predicts the weather and has been doing so for years with about 85 to 90% accuracy. In our Spaceship Earth story today, Tom Miller is going to Palm Springs to talk to Dr. Irving Crick about his amazing predictions.
It's become an American New Year's Day tradition. Millions of spectators flocking to Pasadena's Colorado Boulevard, and millions more gathering around their television sets to watch the annual Tournament of Roses parade. And while viewers in some frostbitten states may marvel at the beautiful sunny weather each year, these people always expect it. Why? Their official forecaster tells them. For over 50 years, Dr. Irving Crick has been providing everyone from Army generals to Hollywood producers long-range weather forecasts, even 5 years in advance. And his accuracy, you can usually bank on it.
Well, we made the forecast for the events leading up to the Rose Parade, crowning the Queen, all this sort of thing, and then the Rose Parade itself to the Tournament of Roses people last April. And all of these forecasts verified exactly right.
What's your weather prediction for the next Rose Parade?
It'll be a fine day, but cooler than it was last year.
Does it ever rain on the Tournament of Roses Parade?
Yes, they were rained out on January 1st, 1934.
Man seems to have a natural inclination to trying to predict the weather, and he's developed all kinds of folk methods for doing so over the years. Let's see, if your joints ache or there's a ring around the moon, it's going to rain. Red sky at night, sailor's delight. In like a lion, out like a lamb. Well, here at Dr. Crick's Palm Springs Bureau, it's clear that it isn't that simple. There is a continual battle going on between warm air moving up from the tropics and cold air coming down from the Arctic. A weather front is where the two air masses meet. The cold air plows in under the warm air and throws it up to where it's cooler. That, in turn, causes it to lose its moisture as rain or snow. That, very simply, is the process of weather. Different fronts and pressure patterns creating every kind of weather imaginable. It's based upon watching the patterns of those weather fronts that most meteorologists make their weather predictions. And that, according to Dr. Crick, is why they are limited.
Well, the problem with conventional forecasting is that the takeoff point is today's weather situation, whether it be surface or upper air, and the forecasts deteriorate very rapidly with time. Now, our method, which takes into account the full historical evolution of weather in detail from 1899 to date, gives us a better handle on getting beyond a few days. We take into account the way nature evolutions occur. We don't make a theory and then try to fit nature to our theory. I learned this 50 years ago when studying with Einstein. He said, don't try to make nature do what you want it to make. Just you watch nature and let nature tell you what it's doing, and then you'll have the answers. And that's basically what we've done.
Dr. Crick's method takes into account gravitational waves and effects of the sun, moon, and other extraterrestrial forces that create surface pressure patterns on the Earth. Using these data, Dr. Crick's staff can classify all weather into 6-day patterns or evolutions. Then they go back into historical data to find similar patterns in the past. And based on that, they can see what kind of weather will follow, not just next week or next month, but even years into the future. Why doesn't everybody use your system? Especially the National Weather Service.
We are franchising out our forecast material to other consulting meteorologists who have found it successful in extending their work to another dimension. But the federal government has not yet come around to it, but they have just finished a study with a management concern, Booz Allen Hamilton, indicating that the Weather Bureau should now tap these resources from the private sector. So it will come eventually.
Weather has a profound effect on everything in our lives, and occasionally it can change the course of history. This may have been the case in early June 1944, as the chief weatherman for the Allied forces, among them Irving Crick, argued bitterly over the date for what would be the most historic water invasion in history, D-Day. 2 million troops would be involved. Conditions had to be right for the 5 days following the invasion, or the consequences would be devastating. The British forecasters didn't believe in Crick's long-range methods and advised Eisenhower not to go in on any of these proposed dates, the 5th, 6th, or 7th, due to ominous weather. Crick and his men maintained their optimistic forecast, however, and at 3 a.m. on June 5th, Eisenhower's decision was to go the next day.
I remember that's the night my hair started to turn gray.
What kind of a day was it?
Well, it was a day in which every element of the combat team, the amphibious forces, the gliders, the bombers, everyone could operate. It wasn't a perfectly clear day, and it was bad up around Calais, where the Germans thought we were going to land, which was good because they were fooled and didn't send reinforcements to Normandy until it was too late, and their forecasters said we would not come and told Rommel he could go off to a birthday party in Paris and not worry about an invasion.
Dr. Crick went on to become weather consultant to Hollywood. He picked the night for the filming of a famous scene in Gone with the Wind. Conditions had to be just right for the burning of Atlanta. Clear, calm, without wind. And of course, there could be no retakes. As a spin-off from his long-range forecasting methods, Dr. Crick learned to actually change the weather. For instance, he not only predicted suitable dates for holding the 8th Winter Olympic Games in Squaw Valley, California in 1960, but also he helped provide enough snow for the games by using a device like this. It spews silver iodide crystals from the ground into the air, which it's doing right now, although you can't see them. The crystals are very light. They go up into the sky and seed the clouds, and that increases the rain or snow. Thanks to his talent to modify the weather, Crick's list of clients reads like a world atlas. Preventing hail in Canada so that the crops there are saved. Increasing the rainfall in the Belgian Congo to provide more hydroelectric power. Dr. Crick, it seems that you're almost a weather magician, and what I want to know is this. Can you make it snow at Epcot Center next Christmas?
No, but it'll be a nice day. There's a storm that'll move through the day before, and then Christmas Day at Epcot will be nice.
Wonderful. We'll hold you to it.
Okay.
Now, we all know about the National Weather Service, but in addition to the government, there are over 60 private weather services that supply all sorts of information, and valuable information that's needed in specific regions. They save lives, tell us if the roads are going to be clear, how much heating oil we need in a particular area of the country, and they keep our airlines running safely as well. Coming up next, Marilyn Hinken has some great plant ideas.
Yeah.